Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Do you have stuff you want to hand out?
No. No, it's gonna be hot.
I'm curious about the
Yeah, we've got also.
Spur of the moment. Golden so I set my wife so it turned into
all right. Can you guys hear okay? So the clock's a little bit slow on the wall back there.
Okay, guys, 1, 2, 3.
Hello. Wild corner back table over there. They're going, which corner? So, hey guys, thanks for coming to Wealth Building today. And we'll shag some more people up here and get them rolling. Do us a favor. We have a office Facebook page that I believe most of our agents are on, and they read. Probably they read that faster than they read anything else. And we get these really awesome opportunities to bring top-notch speakers in, top-notch education, and don't keep it a secret because not everybody is always able to come. And if they knew what they were missing, would probably shift their schedule to make sure that they would show up. And I mean, I just thinking back, we just had, Renee just did a great class, you know, win with sellers, and we did Quantum Leap and all kinds of things. And when you post about it, it speaks volumes. So don't be shy, get on Facebook, share what you learned, and let other agents know what they missed, because they're going to believe you faster than us. So, because we're always chatting away, right? So
That never happens.
no, that never happens. So anyway, today is wealth building, and we've been talking about Brian Pintar, and you all are going, does he actually exist? He looks like Ashley Swenson. Well, I'm here to tell you that he doesn't look like Ashley Swenson. So Brian, would you come up? Brian and I have known each other for probably more years than either one of us want to admit, probably close to 20.
20 was the number I just came up with.
Yeah, it's a nice round number. And yeah, I kind of shared in the team meeting how we met at the Broadmoor and sat out on the deck, and we just hit it off. And we've done a lot of business
drank for
together.
8 straight hours.
Yeah. Yeah, that will make
Lots of water.
Lots of water. So Brian has built an incredible business, and I have trusted Brian with my clients for years, and they continue to go back and refer more and more people. And he's also turned into one of the best business coaches that you'll ever meet, ever. And Kristen challenged you this morning to go and take him to lunch. He even bought, gosh, but you could buy him lunch. You could buy him lunch. You could buy him coffee.
Buy anyone lunch.
Yeah. So incredibly successful man in life and in business. And you guys made a really awesome choice today to be here. So don't forget to talk about it on Facebook. I'm going to give Brian the mic. And I already told stories about you. And I'm going to deny everything you say about me. So I'm going to, you don't have to have that real high up there, and you can pop that in your pocket. We have noise canceling, and that kind of
Perfect
messes with you.
Let's
So welcome.
give Brian a big round of applause. This really is. This is a big deal.
All right, go ahead, Patrick.
Well, I think the key piece with when we look at wealth building, and I know Brian, you and I have chatted about this, and you have actually a whole system and a model around building wealth, which I think completely separates you from not just the local competition, but just that mindset piece more than anything else. And one of the things as we built out this wealth building series is different strategies around wealth. What's our viewpoint on wealth? What's our viewpoint on money? Let's go there for a moment, right? So as we keep building and building out this series, how do you see your mindset start to change? And that's the question I'm going to have for you today. Is going to be after today is over. Now, how are you looking at this? We've talked about in the past. We've talked about this book right here, which we will keep diving into, which is called Profit First. And this is a fantastic book. And it's something that talks directly about not just the volume, not just the production. What's the net? What's your profit margin look like? We've had guest speakers in here that have focused on their profit margin. Our own agents, Bud Doyle, Mark Bauer, have been in here. That was awesome, right, Shannon? That was a great one. And then after that was Mike Hills, who talked about how to build out an investment portfolio. So what Brian's going to talk about today is going to be a little bit different than that, and in my opinion, a little bit deeper than that, because it has to start here. If it doesn't start here and here, the action doesn't happen. So with that, Brian, I'm going to turn this over to you, and we'll bounce back and forth.
Awesome. So, well, thanks you guys for having me. Few things we'll go through today is we're going to talk about, I'll just kind of give you a history of who I am, where I came from, realize I didn't really grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. Like Jeffrey Dahmer was my neighbor growing up. He really was, by the way. And then we're going to talk a little bit about wealth and budget. Like the budget has such a negative connotation. Did everybody get the budget in front of them? Like a personal family budget?
The budget?
Yeah, if you guys could take one of each of these and just pass them around, that'd be awesome. I'd really appreciate it. And then we just, we talk a lot about mindset and how do we accumulate wealth and what does wealth mean and how do we do it through a budget. Most people think budget's cutting things, but it's actually the opposite. And then we'll go into, if you were to make $1 million a year, so $1 million is kind of a benchmark. I could literally teach every single person in this room how to do it within 12 months, 100% guaranteed. It's just most people won't do it. And I'll explain that as well. And then we'll take some time for questions. So my background is I grew up in Milwaukee. I grew up, anybody know where Milwaukee is? Wisconsin? Most segregated city in the country, lots of riots. I grew up as a minority. I grew up ridiculously poor. The church would feed us. I have a twin brother and an older brother. We grew up and my mom still lives in the same house we grew up. It's 800 square feet. It's 2 bedrooms. The entire house was 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen, and a living room. So all 3 of us shared a bedroom, my twin brother and my older brother. I was definitely a minority where I grew up. Like I said, the church would bring us food. So not a whole lot was handed to me. If I'll give you an example, I will make more money in the first 6 months of this year than both my parents combined made in their last 40 years of life. So it's kind of an interesting stat, right? And, but I'm super grateful I grew up that way. So most of the kids, so when I grew up, you had to become an entrepreneur quickly. So what I did, and these are really true stories, I got a paper out early, and then I grew up right by County Stadium, Milwaukee, where the Milwaukee Brewers played. And so I would sell peanuts on the side of the corner. We'd buy bulk peanuts, and I would sell peanuts for like $2 a bag or whatever. And then we would take that money, and then I'd go stand outside the liquor store and have somebody buy a keg of beer, and then I'd sell the red Solo cups for like $5. So then I would sell those. Like the profit margin, like high school kids drinking beer, like that profit margin is massive. Like they could never finish it. Like a keg's gonna last you 2-3 weekends. St. People's buying a cup, right? And then I would take that and I would buy and sell a lot of weed. It wasn't legal back then, still isn't in Milwaukee. And I was also a bookie. So that's kind of how I got started. One thing you're going to hear about me is I'll probably end up swearing, and I apologize. The other thing is, for people that know me really well, is don't lie. I'm really brutally direct, honest. It gets me in trouble a lot, but it's just who I've become. So anyway, so what happened is went through high school, played football, wrestling, tennis, and all that stuff. And I really liked wrestling. It was kind of my sport because it was a way to take out a lot of aggression. Like anything you could literally beat the crap out of somebody and get away with it was perfect for me. It was a really good fit. And so I ended up getting a wrestling scholarship to Marquette University in Wisconsin. And which is interesting. You guys, like anybody watch like college football and all that stuff? And they're like, you got to meet these academic requirements to get in. That stuff's all made up. Like there's zero chance I qualified to get in. Like none whatsoever. So I wrestled all through college, and that is what saved my life. The majority of my friends that I grew up with are either not alive or they're in prison. Like my older brother's been in prison 4 times. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to him in probably 5 or 6 years. My twin brother lives out here. He's doing all right, you know, but it was just a really different way to grow up. And then what happens is I ended up getting a wrestling scholarship through college, and then I ended up wrestling at the Olympic Training Center out here in Colorado Springs, which is how I ended up in Colorado. And just a caveat to that story, about 6 months into the Olympic Training Center, I was at a bar in Colorado Springs, and I met these guys that rode bulls for a living, you know, like the bucking bulls in the rodeo. And they bet me I wouldn't get on one, so I got on my first bull the next day, and I never, ever wrestled again. I got my Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association card. I rode bulls professionally for 4 years. So after that, my parents, this is dead serious, we're at the Pikes Peak or Bust Rodeo in Colorado Springs, and it's on ESPN, and my dad calls me. He's like, "Was that just you?" That's literally how my parents found out. So right after college, I started a mortgage business in Chicago. First thing I ever did. And it was really hard. I probably looked like I was 17. Chicago's a really tough market. My power was shut off a lot. And then I moved out to Colorado Springs, like I said, with the Olympic Training Center, and I started doing mortgages there. And it eventually grew to where I built a company in 2000. You know, it's funny, in 2006 or 7. You guys know Jake, right? Gringer, everyone? So Jake had a mortgage company. I had a mortgage company. We were going to combine our mortgage companies. So I said Jake's business partner and I didn't get along, so we never combined our mortgage companies. I stayed in mortgage, he went into real estate. Like that's how long that relationship's been around. So I opened a large company. I had about 285 employees. I sold that in July of 2008. Took a year off. My wife was a breadwinner in the household, and we just had our first child. And she was making about 80-90% of the household income. And then we came home one day, and the nanny was abusing my 1-year-old daughter. And my wife's like, "I'm staying home." She's like, "We're going to figure out how to live on a budget of whatever, like $150,000 a year." You know, and that sounds like a lot of money, but at that time she was vice president of New York Community Banks. It was the largest wholesale lender in the country. I mean, you think her salary was like $600,000-700,000. So, but I'm like, I am not changing my lifestyle. I'm just not. You know, and the rule was when we first started, and again, this is just me being honest, not judging and stuff. I'm like, all right, here's the deal. She's like, we'll figure out how to live on $150,000. And my why at that point was like, if we make 200, do we have to go to Walmart? Because I don't like Walmart. And she's like, if we make 200, we don't have to go to Walmart. And like, that was my driving force behind making $200,000 a year to get started. So fast forward, I opened a company in 2009 with my friend Gavin Ekstrom. We started a company called Citywide Home Loans. We became $1 billion company in 2016, the year I left. But so then what happened is I wrote a thing. If you guys ever do visions, like a 1-year vision, a 5-year vision. So in 2014, I wrote my first 5-year vision. And on the vision, it said, when I make $1 million on a W-2, and I become a top 500 lender in the country, I'll make it a point to help other people and give back for others. It's my 5-year vision. So year 2, that was 2014. On October 15th of 2016, my assistant comes up to me and taps me on my shoulder. And she shows me a paycheck stub, and it broke $1 million, right? And I said 2 things. I'm like, that fucking sucks. And that was it. Like, that's all I had to do. So the reason it fucking sucks is because I wrote down that I would make a commitment to help all these people, right? And I'm like, when I wrote that commitment, it was super shallow, right? I never thought I'd make $1 million, nor did I ever think I'd be a top 500 lender in the country. So I get this, and I run down the hall to this guy, Bill Beresford, who's our chief operating officer of the company. I'm like, hey, did you send my numbers into the Scotsman guide yet? Scotsman Guide is where they track the top 500 lenders in the country. He's like, I just sent the numbers, and I'm like, fuck. Pardon my French, told you I swear. I'm like, that sucks. And so the Scotsman guy calls me like a month later and like, there's a discrepancy in your numbers. I'm like, really? Like, I'm not going to make it. Like, this is awesome. Like, don't have to make it. And it turns out the numbers that were sent in were too short of what I actually produced that year. So I made a top 500. I left Citywide where we literally had $1 billion company that I'm making money off of. And I started a new company to bring in loan officers to help coach, right? So I made it my commitment to help loan officers, help real estate agents become better. And that's what all I've ever done since. I still produce in the mortgage industry. I'm still always in the top 1%. I'll probably be top 500 again this year. But one thing I've learned is that to do well isn't really that hard. It's just the stories we tell ourselves that hold us back. And so I kind of dove in and I'm figuring it out. So I coach in a group called the Core Training. Does anybody know what that is? You ever heard of it? So for you guys that haven't, here's what it is. There's 485 total members in the Core. It's based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. They're all mortgage and all real estate from all over the country. And the way it works, there's 2 summits every year. There's 2 3-day summits at different parts of the country. So you have to make $250,000 to actually show up to be invited to go. And then once you go, it costs about $10,000 for the 3 days. And then once you're there, you can apply to get into Core, what we call level 3 coaching. There's different levels, but level 3 is the highest level. And every semester, depending on how many people they kick out or how many people get fired from the program, is how many new people they bring in. So for example, this last semester, there were 128 applicants and there were 22 open spots. And so all 128 people applied. They only took 22. Ashley, who Debbie was just talking about, was the first loan officer I ever hired under this model of me trying to help other people. She just got accepted to level 3 coaching in the Core. So it's kind of a big deal. So if I look at the Core in general, I'll give you a couple examples of people that I actually spend time with and I hang out with. We understand budgets with. So the number 1 member in the wage earner in the Core last year was Todd Screama. His net income last year was around $31 million for the year. The number 2 wage earner was a guy named Rick Ruby. He founded the Core. So Rick's famous because he's made $1 million a month, per month, by the way, $1 million a month for 39 straight months. And he's averaged more than $2 million a month in income for the last 26 months. The number 1 loan officer in the Core is a guy named Oleg Tech, who's one of my good friends. In October, when we were doing the summit, he had made $660,000 the first 15 days in October. I think he made like $1.3 million for the month. And so I'm sitting at lunch one day, and I'm literally at a table like this, and I'm sitting right here, and Ashley's sitting there, and this Todd Screama guy, the $31 million guy, comes and sits right next to me here, and Oleg comes and sits right here, and these guys were just up on stage, and Ashley's like, these are really your friends? I'm like, yeah, these are all my friends. And so she's like, so she asked them both, and I'm going to go through this at the end. I'm like, ask them anything. They're super nice guys, right? And she's like, if you would do any one thing to be successful, what would it be? Kristen, what's the answer?
30 calls every day.
What?
30 calls every day.
That's it?
No computer.
I'm going to use this as an example at the end, by the way.
That's fine.
So both of them said, just call 30 people a day. That's it. And I'm like, Ashley, ask anybody here what the key is to like how much money they make. And they all say, make 30 calls a day. And then it eventually piles on itself. But then you get to the point, it's like, all right, so if I have unlimited amount of money in the bank, right, and I'm making a lot of money, then what keeps you going? Like, what keeps you moving forward? And this concept, what I realized through coaching loan officers that literally had nothing, like Ashley, that had nothing in the bank and more debt than anything else, to loan officers that are doing really, really well, to real estate agents that are doing well, and anybody in between, there's one common factor, and it's really your budget. So how many of you guys keep a budget? All right. How many of you guys honestly cut stuff in your budget? Like cut out stuff so you can save more money? Just be honest, show of hands. So the first factor is this: you're doing it wrong. You never, ever, ever cut anything from the budget. So there's a reason we're all here, we're all mortgage, we're all real estate, right? So we're all entrepreneurs. Like, Patrick, what's your point of being a real estate agent?
What's my point?
Yeah.
Is build a profit first, and then to impact as many lives as possible.
Okay. Tell me what profit is.
So profit would be what I make and keep, what I'm able
Okay.
to keep and after expenses.
How much you want to make?
300,000.
Okay. You can have any dollar amount you want ever. It's 300,000.
300 million.
Perfect.
Any dollar amount. Let's go big, right? Are we going small or big?
Perfect. Yeah. So one thing from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I mean, to be honest with you, like if you're really, really honest, like God's given us the ability to do, to want, to be, to achieve anything we want in our lives. Life is completely limitless. I have a degree in psychology. I have a degree in secondary education. I have a degree in economics. I told you guys I had a scholarship through college, right? And when you go up really, really poor and they give you 5 years, you maximize your credits plus summer credits because it's all paid for. You end up with a lot of degrees. So, but my degree in education is I taught special needs kids, and I was heavily involved in the Special Olympics, and I taught special needs students on the secondary level at the high school level. And there's something that stuck out for me between like being a very high-end athlete and then kids with autism is like those dudes will outwork me, right? Like these kids that are autistic and that have special needs, like I couldn't come close to what they're doing. I mean, if you look at the entire country, I was 5th on the Olympic ladder. So I'm the number 5 best wrestler in the entire country. And these kids are outworking me. And it gave me this philosophy to kind of hit me one day. I'm like, these kids are working so hard. And everybody on this planet has a place, right? There's a purpose for everything. But they don't have the ability to go out and make $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 million a year. They just don't. It's just fact, right? But they have a purpose. Their purpose was like, I'm like, well, God's given me the ability to literally to do, to want, to be, to achieve anything I want in life. Anything. It's limitless. So why don't I just do everything I can to achieve whatever I want? So when we talk about, it's funny when we do a budget, which we're going to go through today, or our 5-year visions, and I tell people to suspend reality. Do you know? So I'm like, suspend reality. You can write any dollar amount on your budget, your 5-year vision, right? Any dollar amount. What do you want to make at some point in 5 years? Not in a 12-month period in 5 years. When I talk about making $1 million, it's making $1 million in a 12-month period, not $1 million over 5 years, right? Do you know what the average answer is for real estate agents?
100,000.
What'd you say, 100,000? Slightly higher. It's 150. And by the way, that's typically GCI, which we don't care about. We care about your adjusted gross income. But think about that. So you could suspend reality. You could have anything you want, and you're at 150. Like, Barry, what's the bare minimum that you can put down?
For 5
Your
years?
5-year vision income.
Million.
Bare minimum, right? Anything like that, what do I say? Don't ever come back.
Something like that.
Barry and I have known each other a long time, so. But Barry's coaching me a long time. I'm like, if you put anything less than $1 million, don't ever come back to my coaching. It's just not okay. You know, so for example, I just did my 5 years, it's $10 million. Will I make $10 million with a 12-month period at some point in the next 5 years? Absolutely, it's already happened. It's like guaranteed. But that's not the most exciting thing about my 5-year vision. Christy, do you remember what it is? Or you know what it is, Richie? What is it? What's my most exciting thing about my 5-year vision?
Charity.
The charity? What's number 2?
Working less than.
Just helping making the world a better place.
Oh, no, it's way superficial. It's a helicopter.
Oh,
Remember?
That's right,
It's a helicopter. I got a helicopter. Like my 5-year vision is I literally, no, when you write your 5-year vision, you write this down. Mine's a helicopter. I live in Evergreen, work at a tech center. I don't like traffic. So, but I have a very specific helicopter, by the way. It's $1 million helicopter. It's got a full wet bar, and it's literally just completely full of Tito's. I already got my pilot.
What is that, a 15-minute flight?
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's just like, it's a helicopter. I want a helicopter, right? Saves me time. That's exactly right. I'm like, hold on, don't take off yet. I should shake up this martini. But anyways, but so these 5-year visions, right? It's like, so what keeps these guys going? Like this Todd Screamer, what keeps them going at 30 million? Yeah, charity's pretty cool, right? The 485 people of us, of the 485 in the core, we gave just over $14 million to charity last year. So my personal charity, one of the flyers I handed out, I gave over $250,000 to that charity last year. But that's just not really quite it. there's not enough there, right? There's got to be more for whatever reason it is. Like, it's fun to give. Like, let's just be really honest. Like, giving's everything, but it kind of gets boring, right? I'm just, again, that's me being brutally honest. So what is it? What is it that keeps people moving forward? There's a lot of comfort in not having to do a budget. There's a lot of comfort in, like, if you want to go out and buy anything, you can. But that's still not it either. It almost becomes a competitive game. And what I mean by is that, so the number one thing we're going to start with today, so what I figured out, this is a long way of getting there, is that there's one line on this budget. Can I see what else? So there's one line on this budget. So this is a personal family budget. In the core, I have to turn this in every single month to my coach. And there's only one number in here that matters. It's right down here where it says saving year to date. On the very bottom, saving year to date. So the number one most important thing in the core is that you save 20% of what you earn, right? How many people think saving sounds boring? Like, I think it's super boring, right? Like, savings is really, really, really boring. But here's the deal. So when you're in the core and you're doing really well and you saved a lot of money and you have enough for retirement, you can do whatever you want. Once you save your 20%, everything above that you can spend on anything you want. Like, how many people think that sounds fun? Like, you just spend on stupid stuff. Fortunately, a lot of people give to charity, but people really spend on things that bring them joy, whatever it is. My personal joy is giving, and I love buying food for people. So I love food and I love gifting. You know, my food budget right now for all my coaching is $17,000 a month is what I spend on food. I spend another approximately, it's somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 a month in gifting. And so, but that's what brings me joy. So everything above the 20% I save, I actually spend on other people because that's where I find my passion. And so let's talk about a budget. So I had a show of hands. Debbie, you keep a budget?
What?
Keep a budget?
Absolutely.
You do?
Absolutely.
Do you balance a checkbook?
Yes.
Do you like it? Nobody likes it. So I answered it for
money
you.
in there, I like it. If it's not so fun.
When you budget, do you cut things?
Yes, all the time.
All right, that's terrible, by the way.
I'm with
You're
you.
doing it wrong.
I'm doing it awesome.
So let me explain a budget. How many of you guys think there's a bad connotation with a budget?
Oh yeah.
It's a budget, right? But aren't we all entrepreneurs? Is there a limit on how much you can make?
No.
Did anybody tell you that does anybody here have a limit on how much they can make besides Debbie and Patrick? Well, you guys technically don't have a limit either. You do real estate. But is there a limit on how much you can make? I mean, be honest. It's pretty unlimited, right? Like, if I go out and make a shit ton of money, and a shit ton's a technical term for a lot, I mean, anybody can do it. Like, I'm telling you, there's nobody in this room with ADD as bad as I have it. You know, there's nobody in here that struggled through school more than I have. I'm just being honest. But the whole thing is like, but why would we make so much money? Like, does anybody in here, be really honest, does anybody in here wish you made more money? Show of hands. Everyone. All right. So what would you do? Kristen, what would you do if you made more money?
Pay my bills.
What else? That's not fun.
Buy a house.
What kind of house?
Well, right now the one I'm living in.
Okay.
And then also buying land and building a house. And
Oh, tell me more about that.
it's on my vision board. It's
Okay.
been on there for 3 years.
Okay.
Pay cash for land and pay cash for a brand new house to be built.
Where's the land?
Where?
Yeah.
I'm looking at Elizabeth.
How many acres?
As many as I could possibly get.
Okay. It's like 500. Is that good or you want more?
That would probably be minimum.
Okay.
Wow.
So we'll go 1,000.
Yeah.
Tell me about the house.
Be like a retirement house, ranch, enough room for grandkids.
Is there enough room for your mom to move in?
Yeah.
Okay.
She can.
Okay. Just making sure.
So then we'll have
Some point it's gotta be a
somewhere to
little
put
bit of
alcohol.
Right. So you're gonna have a full bar
That's right.
because your mom moved in.
Yeah.
Margarita,
Yeah.
blender, pool.
Yeah.
All right, got it. What else? Tell me more about the house.
pretty simple on the house part, and I built little plans for different businesses on the land too.
Like what kind of
Building
business?
a venue for
Okay.
weddings and things like that. Cattle, chickens, pigs,
What's your favorite animal?
probably horses.
Okay. So you could have horses?
Yeah.
Perfect.
And give my kids opportunities to create their own businesses on the property too, if they choose to.
What's your favorite part of the house, the barn?
Probably just outside. Just being out and away from people if you choose to.
Nice. So when are you going to build it?
It's on my 5-year.
Perfect. If you have a day like you did yesterday, would it happen?
Oh, absolutely.
How hard was your day yesterday?
It was so easy.
Good. I'm not telling anybody what it is yet, by the way. I had lunch with Kristen on Monday. And I assigned homework for her, and she's pretty easy. I'm like, there's 0 chance you do it. In fact, I don't even think you can do it. So, but if you actually had any drive or effort, you might. Like, that's how you push people's buttons. So she actually did it. But
His
no, it really
confidence
did,
level
by the
was
way.
really high.
So let's look at this budget. So when we look at a budget, the number one thing we do not do is cut, ever. So let me talk about making a budget. Let me rephrase that. You can cut certain things. Anything that brings you joy on your budget. So you go through and you fill out line by line. This is where all my money came from, right? And I'm going to teach you a really simple way to do this. If it brings you joy, you cannot cut it, right? So when Debbie has $1,700 at a liquor store bill every month, she can't cut that. It brings her joy.
It's necessary.
And she needs it because of all of you guys.
Yeah.
So you can't cut it either,
Right.
right? So number one rule in your budget is you can never cut anything that brings you joy, ever. It is not allowed. We cut too many things that bring us joy. Do you know why that's a problem? Barry, how many seconds are there in a day? I have asked you this question 900,000 times. 86,400. That's the closest he ever got. Christy, how many do you get back?
None.
None what? You never get a second back?
Nope.
So your time matters, right? So why would you cut anything that brings you joy? Ever. Like, we are all real estate agents. We're all mortgage people. Is there a limit on how much we can make?
No.
So why would we cut something that brings us joy? Ever. Ever, 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 ever. Can I ask you guys another question? How many hours do you think I work? How many guys do you think I work more than 50 hours a week? No one? There's one. Be honest. How many guys think I work more than 40 hours a week? Just be honest. Okay. How many guys think I work about 30 hours a week? That's how many hours I work. Do you know why? Because I don't really like working. I mean, it brings me joy. Like, the coaching part brings me joy. But I get a lot more joy by paying a lot of people a lot of money to work for me. So I can do things like this, right? So it's just another thing when you look at your budget, how do you create joy? Well, my joy is giving other people. So like, my average employee makes double what their normal employee in that position would make. Because it makes me happy. It's good for them too, but it really makes me happy. So when you look at your budget, you can never, ever, ever cut anything that makes joy, because you can always make more money, right? So the number one rule in your budget, how you learn to spend recklessly and buy shit like helicopters, is really simple. Once you save your 20% of whatever you make, so everybody in here has an income goal for a year, right? So let's say everybody's income goal is $120,000. So it's $10,000 a month. So that means you have to save $2,000, right? Everybody got the math? But once you save your $2,000 and you have $3,000 in expenses, you have $5,000 left. If I said, Patrick, you had $5,000 and you have to spend it right now, what would you do with $5,000?
I would put that into an Airstream that I have. Airstream trailer and renovate.
Why? You should buy somebody going and get you a Christmas tree.
You know? Yeah.
You guys know it's a Christmas tree story, right?
I don't think they know all the Christmas. No.
Right.
Yeah, and you know the Christmas tree story, which is impressive.
Yeah, he got stuck. He drove up to the mountains and got stuck in the snow trying to cut down a Christmas tree. Had to stay overnight. in the car.
Chevy Chase.
Oh yeah, Chevy Chase never got stuck. He went to the tree lot and made it home. Right? So what would you do with the Airstream? Why does the Airstream matter?
The Airstream matters because we like to go camping, we like to go fishing and do things like that.
Okay.
And it's also ties into the real reason is that's the Airstream trailer is what I grew up in.
Okay.
Going on these. So it's a reflection of my childhood that I can share now with my kids.
So it brings you joy, right?
Absolutely.
Richie, you have $5 grand right now. What would you spend it on? You had to spend it.
Travel.
You'd spend it on what?
Wine and travel.
Why wine?
Can I go?
Yeah. What wines?
Where would you travel to?
Probably Italy to drink
Where
wine.
the wine is. He's consistent.
So what's the great part about drinking wine in Italy, right? No preservatives, no tannins. Like you can just go to town and not be hungover. Like that's why you go to Italy. And it's super inexpensive, right? But it's so good. And so, but think about it. Like, how does that make you feel just even thinking about that?
It's good. It's in my vision. It's already happened.
It's already happened. So, but when you think about it, so you go back to this budget, you save your 20%, you have this extra money left over, and then you have to spend that extra money. You're going to do things that make you feel good, right? Like, is there anybody in here that couldn't think of a way to spend $5,000 right now? Like, just off the top of your head. Like, that means you've already paid your bills. You've already saved 20%. Now you got $5 grand you have to spend. Like, you have to spend it, right? And I'm not going to lie, I probably save closer to 35, 40% because I can only buy so much food for so many people. You know, but I'm just being honest. So, like, how do we get there, though? So, well, one, we don't ever cut things that bring us joy, right? And number two is, how many people in here have more than 2 credit cards? Just be honest. You get 2 credit cards. You get one personal one, and you get one business one, and that's it.
And a pottery barn.
Because it brings you joy.
You save your 20%, you can do it. What's a pottery barn? I'm not kidding, by the way.
That's a store.
Oh,
Yeah.
like in the mall or something?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't
And
do
they can
malls.
get discount. They don't put funds back. That's why I have it.
Because my wife shops for me. I don't ever go to a store ever.
Buy shops at pottery.
You never seen descriptions, pottery barn? The MLS.
Never mind.
No idea. All right, so anyways, I'm telling you how to do it. You get 2 credit cards, right? So the reason you get 2 credit cards, and when you buy, so there's 2 rules, 2 credit cards, one personal, one business. Everybody got that? Another rule, how many of you guys have debit cards and use them? You're not allowed to use pottery barns or debit cards.
I
Ever.
disagree.
Everything goes on your credit card. Everything goes on your personal card and your business card. So your debit card comes from where? Checking account, savings account, overdraft account, right? One, both, all. But that money's too hard to track, especially if we're doing it in cash, right? And one thing you want to cash check is where we spend our money on. How many of you guys got a car payment? How many of you guys like making that car payment every month? How many of you guys find joy in your car? That's perfect. Would your car be more joyful if you didn't have a car payment? So why do you have a payment on a depreciating asset? No, it's not a question. I mean, you just told me you're more joyful if you didn't have a car payment on a car, right? But does this happen overnight? Absolutely not. We all had to start somewhere. Like when I started, I didn't have a whole lot of money in savings, and I had a shit ton of credit cards, and I had a car payment on a car that didn't work. Like it wouldn't even move, like the wheel had fallen off. You know what I mean? So you got to start somewhere, but how do you start? Like, and the one thing in the corner is so much massive accountability. Like you don't have a choice. I don't have a choice in doing it or not. So a couple of things about your budget, right? You have a personal card, you have a business card. You do not use your checking and savings. Your best goal is to pay off your credit cards every month that you spend. Yes, it will take a while to get there, but I'm going to explain how we get there quicker. So we pay off our credit cards every month. And then all we're doing in this first column, when we fill this out every month, is this is the minimum amount of money you owe. Your mortgage payment, your car payment, your minimum payment on your credit cards, how much you spend in gas, how much you spend in dry cleaning. So when you look at your credit card statement, you literally break out, this is what I spent in retail, this is what I spent at Pottery Barn, right? That's part of retail, I assume? Like pots are the same as clothes, retail. How much did I spend in groceries? How much did I spend on a dry cleaner? How much miscellaneous money did I take out of my checking and savings, right? And we're not telling you to cut anything out unless you look at something and like, Pottery Barn's not bringing me joy because my dog keeps breaking the shit, right? But if you don't have a dog and it's not breaking, it brings you joy, then don't cut it out, then go to Pottery Barn. Does that make sense? And then this is the amount you paid. And your number one goal in this column is if I have a credit card with $10,000 on it and my minimum monthly payment's $100, I want to pay $10,000 that month. This is the goal we're shooting for. So now we're paying off all of our debts every month. And then the fifth column is how much do you take in? So how many of you guys in here have a second job outside of real estate? Everybody is 100% full-time? Okay. So your second job income goes in here, right? And the reason it matters, and then our real estate income comes in here. And what eventually happens when we coach a lot, we realize that like, hey, if I did my dollar per hour in real estate is $400, my dollar per hour on my other job is $20. Why don't I just spend a few more hours in real estate and get another deal? The reason we put it all on paper is we actually see this in writing, right? So this column is how much we make. So then you take how much you actually pay out month per month, divided by how much you make, and that is your percentage saved. Once you're above 20%, you can buy anything you want. Make sense? So how do we get there? Like, how many of you guys go out right now and just pay off all your credit cards? You could. That's awesome. Why don't you?
We do every month.
It's good. That's awesome. Are you guys married?
Yes.
Do you guys do a budget together?
No.
Do you do a budget at all?
Yes.
Do you save 20%?
Before I got laid off last year, we were saving 30%.
Okay. What would you do with the extra money? Did you have like, once I save that 25 or 30, would you guys go out and spend on whatever you want?
We're paying for our daughter's college.
That's boring.
Yeah.
But that's part of your 20%.
It's bringing us joy. She's not going to be in debt when she starts.
Really? I think there's a thing to be in debt for kids. That's a whole different story though. No, honestly, I mean, really, like I had a full ride scholarship through college, but I still ended up with $35,000 in student loans. Like when I wasn't wrestling, I was at the bar, so that kind of. And that was actually not during the wrestling season because we didn't drink during the wrestling season, so that was just like 6 months out of a year. But anyways, so your budget is now. Let's just look at it again. So now we understand how to do it. Let's look at the 20% rule. So we don't cut things that bring us joy. We save our 20%, and now we can spend on that on anything we want. Have any of you guys ever wrote a book in here? Read a book called Killing Sacred Cows by Garrett Gunderson? Anyone? I highly, 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 highly recommend it.
What's it called?
Killing Sacred Cows by Garrett Gunderson. You know, there's a lot of technical stuff in there, like why we shouldn't have a 401k, why we should have whole life policies, those type of things. It's not really important. The most important thing is what's called the velocity of money. So when we spend money, are we just bringing joy to ourselves? No. Who else are we bringing joy to?
Person that you're hiring or whoever you're spending the money with.
Whoever we're spending money with. What about the people that make it? What about their families?
Yeah, like it goes down the line.
So there's only so much money, right? Money comes back, it recycles through. It just keeps recycling through and through and through. So the more we spend after we save, the nicer things we spend money on, the more we're doing for other people. And let me explain why that matters. Because my personal opinion is I believe we exist on this planet to do for others, right? That's the entire reason we exist. And so I could literally spend money on anything I want, whatever the gifts we buy. So like I said, I probably spend $15,000 to $20,000 a month in gifting. But all those gifts that I give, and it's kind of funny, don't tell Debbie this, but like when we go to lunch, my assistant Steph would be like, this is what you said Debbie for lunch or for like her birthday. And they could be like, hey, you got a scarf, right? I don't really know what I gift people, but I have an assistant that tells me when I'm going to be seeing those people. But anyway, so when you spend money, this velocity of money, right? This is all about giving without the expectation of anything in return. So now we're giving, and now we're helping the families and the cultures that actually made those goods. Does that make sense? So now this whole thing about saving money, because I think the general reason, I know the general reason that most of us do not succeed in mortgage and real estate is because we make it about ourselves, as opposed to understanding that we have this opportunity to make this massive global impact on millions and millions and millions of lives, because we have the opportunity that God's given us the ability to do, to want to be, achieving anything we want in our life, that we're not taking advantage of. But why aren't we taking advantage of it? Because we have so many things in the way. Like Kristen doesn't take advantage of it because she's in love with her computer and she's in love with command, right? So it's the tiniest little shift. So how big was your shift? Like how little was that change?
Well, it was just a tiny step of stuff that we're supposed to be doing anyway, but made a massive impact.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about Kristen. So how do we do it? So now we understand the why, right? So instead of looking at it as a budget of cutting, we never cut things that bring us joy. Once we save 20%, everybody in the room agreed, like if we had $5 grand right now, like everybody smiled at that part. Like nobody smiled when I said the word budget, but when I said, hey, you got $5 grand, you do whatever you want. There's not a person in this room that was like you guys had literally spent it before I even finished the sentence. Like that's how quickly it happened. So that's why the guys that make $1 million a month start making $2 million a month, because they get to spend on things they like. But then they also understand by their spending, they're impacting all these other people in their lives and their families, right? The reason I do so many loans and I want to continue to do so many loans and I employ so many people is because I want to help their kids, right? I want to help their kids. Like not only do I have a legacy for not only my kids, but their kids' kids. But I want to do that for the people that work for me too, right? Like I'm that dude like, hey, it's Christmas, here's $5 grand. They're like, awesome. It's kind of funny because some people kind of expect it now. And I'm always looking at them, I'm like, really? Like, I don't have to give you $5 grand, but still do it. But anyways, my point is like, there's so much more than just us making the money. And again, everybody in this room's been given an opportunity that a lot of people haven't. And to not take advantage of it is kind of, for me, it's, sad's the right word. I probably get more frustration than anything because we do have this ability to do it without a lot of work and effort. And so that's the reason why. So how do we do it? So I go to lunch with Kristen. Kristen's telling me how stressed she is and that like she's literally beyond stressed. She's working 60, 70 hours a week, right? And I'm like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you doing with your time? She's like, oh, I'm in this command. I'm making flyers. I think you said you were doing. What were you doing with your time?
All the ads, figuring out command, getting just all the admin type stuff.
All the admin type stuff.
Yeah.
For what?
To build more business.
Really?
I mean, it's not
you
yet.
Admin stuff to build business?
Well, I guess if I were to have an admin, they'd be the one doing that. So that's why I call it admin business.
So the guy I told you, Rick Ruby, makes the guy that's been making like $2 million a month. Do you know what he doesn't own? A computer. Do you know what kind of phone he has? And by the way, I've taken pictures. I can show you guys when I'm driving with him. A flip phone.
No.
100%. Do you know the last time I turned on my computer? Either do I. Because I don't know the login, so I can't really get it there anyways. But it's probably not charged because it's been sitting in my bag and it's hot, it's cold, it's hot. I'm sure it's broken. It doesn't really matter. But anyways, like I'm dead serious, by the way. You know, when you look at, so if I went to Rick and I said, Rick, if you were to tell me how to make $1 million a year, what would he say? Kristen, what would he say?
Get rid of your computer.
And do what?
30 calls a day.
Okay. Call 30 people a day. And I'm going to get really granular in this. So I'm going to give you an example. The first loan officer I hired was this girl named Ashley. That's how I know Richie. I hired her. So I coach loan officers that don't work for me on Fridays. So literally there's people that don't work for me. They're my competition. Every Friday I coach them and I give them everything. Like I give them all my materials. I give them my in-person application. I give them every script. Like I give them every single thing I could possibly give. Why do I do that? Because the better they are, the better it makes me. Number one loan officer in the core is a guy named Dayton Schrader. He did 752 sides last year. He's in San Antonio. Do you want to know his secret?
Yes.
752 sides. He has 25 assistants. He has 5 salaried showing assistants and 20 other assistants. His entire secret is this. He calls 30 people a day. That is it. Literally, that is it, right? There's no secret. Calls 30 people a day. And again, I'm going to dive into this in more detail, but so I hired Ashley, right? She was a loan officer that didn't work for me. She started turning in her homework. So I assign homework for people that don't work for me. Like I assign homework for all my coaching I do. Some people turn it in, some people don't. And some people are going to make it, some won't. So Ashley probably had done maybe 6-8 loans ever in her entire life. And this goes back to my original mission of once I made $1 million, top 500 lenders in the country, I was going to help other people. So this year, so we're 2.5 years in, and I came back, I had a bunch with Dayton Trader, the guy was down in, I don't know, we were in Florida or something. And I had a bunch with Dayton Trader, the #1 agent in San Antonio, and he told me about his 30 call a day thing, and I'm like, I've always heard that, but I never really did it. Like I kind of did the hard way getting there, but I'm going to assign that to Ashley when I get back. And so the rule was, she comes in the office, she gives me her computer, so she can't turn it on, right, because I have it. And she can't get her computer back till she sends me a sheet. The sheet has come in, and she had to call 30 people a day. So she has to call 150 people a week, 150 people, different people a week, and that's it. And once she turns her sheet in with the 30 people that she called, she doesn't have to talk to them, she just has to call, right? Then she can have her computer back. But she can't otherwise. And so third quarter of this year, she made more money than she did in all of 2018 combined. So in third quarter, she made than all she did in 2018 combined. Third and fourth quarter this year, she made more money than she did in 2016, 2017, 2018, and the first 2 quarters of 2019 combined. And all I did was took her computer away and made her call 30 people a day. So why don't we do it? Anybody know I have an answer? Why would you do it? Could you call 30? What?
I liked your quote earlier.
What was
Tell
that?
ourselves the stories to put it.
Stories to tell ourselves.
Yeah, screw ourselves up.
Screw ourselves up. Why else? I think the #1 response is, who am I going to call? Are you on Facebook? How many friends do you have on Facebook?
1,000.
Oh, really?
Different countries.
I don't really care what country they're in. That part doesn't matter.
Or different states. Or
Doesn't matter. Again, that is, and I'm not picking any, but I'm really honest. That's a common response, right? That's a super limiting belief. Like we think because they're not in my state, because, and again, that whole philosophy is like, they're not in my state, they're not in my country, what can they do for me? #1 thing is we gotta get rid of what can they do for me. It's what can I do for you? It doesn't matter who it is. And like, I don't care what your religion is. The Buddhas said, if we give without the expectation of anything in return, we'll receive back tenfold, right? Anybody ever heard that? So why don't we all do it? Because we can't stop thinking about ourselves and what's in it for me. And that's just a fact. It is really hard for entrepreneurs, especially that grew up in our country where everything's unlimited and you can have whatever you want without thinking about what's in it for me, right? Does that make sense? So who do you call? I don't care. So I would start with Facebook or LinkedIn. I don't really care. And I would start with the letter A. Everybody's like, well, I don't have everybody's phone number. I'm like, if you know 1,000 people, I guarantee you have at least 500 phone numbers. It's a start. You don't even need all 500 people. Just give me like 25, 30, and that'll generate the other 30 people I have to call the next day, which will generate the other 30 people I have to call the next day, right? So how it works is this, and I'm going to use Dayton Trader as an example because he is a real estate agent. He is in San Antonio. He works with RE/MAX. And one cool thing about Dayton on a side note. So the #2 guy in the core in real estate is a guy named, I keep wanting to say Connor Colup, but that's not his name. He's in San Antonio. And so when he got into the core, Dayton brought him into his office and let him work in his office side by side for 18 months. He's like, because Dayton's kind of like your frumpy old uncle. He's got like the stain on his tie and his shoes are worn out. And like, you know, he's just saying, it's just whatever, like an old school real estate agent. And he's got this young dude that, Patrick Conway is his name, by the way. Patrick Conway's the #2 guy in the core in real estate, and he's in San Antonio as well. So Dayton bring him in. He's like, this is a young dude with a ton of energy, and I'm going to give him every single thing I have, give him every single trick. I'm going to let him work in my office with me for 2 years. Not with me. Dayton's with RE/MAX. Patrick's with, I don't know, I think he's with Compass. Mind you, so now he's got a competing agent in his office to give him everything. Because Dayton's like, I just want to get better. So I'm going to have this young dude that thinks he's all that and a bag of chips, and I'm going to give him everything, and I'm still going to kick his ass. And he still does. But still, Patrick's number 2, right? Like, how cool is that? Talk about giving without the expectation of anything in return. So 30 calls a day. That is a trick for everyone. So who do we call? It doesn't matter. I don't really care. So what Dayton would do is this. He would call, let's just say, start with LinkedIn, start with the first person, the letter A. Let's say he's an HVAC person in Dayton's in San Antonio. Let's say he's in Phoenix, right? Doesn't matter. Calls up this HVAC person. He's like, the Facebook's better because I like the Facebook because that's what I do. I'd be like, hey, Sam Smith, HVAC guy in Phoenix. This is Brian Pintar in Denver. Like, we're friends. He's like, I don't know who you are. This is literally script. This is exactly what I do. And they're like, we're friends on Facebook. I mean, we're obviously friends, right? We're friends on Facebook. We're friends. And he's like, they usually giggle just like that. And by the way, one thing you guys will know about me, and especially like Barry and Chrissy, people I coach a lot, like, I don't give a shit what people think about me. I think that's probably pretty obvious by now. And I have a lot of fun when I make phone calls. So I'm like, yeah, we're friends on Facebook. He's like, all right, what do you want? And I'm like, the reason I'm calling to see what I can do for you. Like, all right, dude, you're a weirdo. Like, well, what? And I'm like, no, really, I honestly believe that the purpose, reason we exist on this planet is to do for other people and find out where I can deliver value and how I can help you. And so I'm honestly calling, like, what do you need? How can I help you? Let me ask you a different question. I have a lot of friends in Arizona. What's your ideal client like? Who do you need to help you grow your business? And they would be like, oh, I need more clients. And I'm like, well, tell me about your ideal client. He's like, well, I want people that live in this neighborhood that have this $1 million homes. And I'm like, great. My great friend, Greg Gale, he's in Scottsdale. I'll make an introduction for you, right? Call up Greg Gale, who's a friend of mine in Arizona. I'm like, can you reach out to this HVAC guy for me and send him all your clients? I need it. Introduce him to your realtors. So mind you, that guy, right? He's in Arizona, but what can he do for me? I don't know. Does it matter? Does it really? So let's go to the next one. So we go to the next layout A on the list, whoever it is. And let's say he's a dog groomer, right? Same exact conversation. Like, hey, Aaron Andrews, a dog groomer. Isn't Aaron Andrews like a real person?
Yes.
Okay. My Aaron begins with an A. Aaron Andrews. Aaron. You guys know that, right? Block A? So, hey, Aaron. I'm like, hey, Aaron, this is Brian Pintar with NFM Lending. And like, we're friends. Like, who are you? And I'm like, we're friends on Facebook, so we're friends, right? Like, this is literally how I say it. And I'm like, how's the dog grooming business? They're like, great. And I'm like, hey, the reason I'm calling is I believe we exist on this planet to do for other people. How can I help you? They're like, you're a weirdo. Like, no, you're the one taking care of dogs all day. You're a weirdo. What's your ideal client look like? Who do you need to help you grow your business? And I am 1,000,000% dead serious. These are things I would say. Because why not? We're just having a conversation. Who do you need to know to grow your business? Like, she's like, well, I don't need anything to grow in my business, but like my dog blower dryer just went out and I think my electric's messed up. I'm like, so you need an electrician? Like, yeah, do you know anyone? I'm like, yeah, I know an electrician, but let's just say I don't. So I'm going to go to an electrician. I'm going to go through and I'll Google electricians, and let's say the person's in Highlands Ranch, right? I'll go Google electricians in Highlands Ranch. I'm going to find one that has a few reviews. I'm going to call up this electrician or the first one that answers. I'm like, hey, Mr. Electrician, my name's Brian Pintar with NFM Lending. And the reason I'm calling is I have a client who owns a dog studio down there. He's a good friend of mine, owns a dog grooming place. He's having problems with their electric. Do you suck at your job? And be like, what? And I'm like, no, do you suck? Because like, I need a good electrician. I want to refer a lot of people to him, but I can't refer people that suck because that would make me look bad. Like, are you good or do you suck? I am dead serious. Like, think about how fun that phone call is, though, right? Like, if I'm going to be calling 30 people a day, I'm going to make it fun. And I am dead serious. So they're like, oh, I'm really good at what I do. And I'm like, all right, let's find out. Well, can you go see my friend, my dog groomer friend? And she'd be like, all right, you can call him tomorrow. I'm like, let me make the introduction. And they're like, awesome. Hey, I'm like, by the way, electric guy, what do you need? He's like, what? I'm like, well, my name's, I told you I'm with NFM, and like, I believe my purpose on this planet is help other people and do things for them. I'm like, I just want to know what you need. Like, how can I help you? Like, you're a weirdo. Thanks for the referral, but go away. And I'm like, all right, who do you need to know to help you grow your business? What's your ideal client look like? You know what I mean? And so then that cycle just goes. We don't need a lot of people to call, but all we're doing is connecting people the whole way through. Have you guys ever read the book, The Connector's Way? super quick read, really, really simple. They do, so this is, so the guy, the author of Connector's Way, Patrick something or other, I can't remember his name, he spoke at one of our core summits this year. This is who taught Dayton Schrader this trick of calling 30 people a day. It's in the book. There's a section on LinkedIn in there. This is where this comes from. And I share that with you because I am not the sharpest tool in the shed, but being an athlete my whole life, I'm very coachable. And so somebody tells me to do something, I just do it, right? So my life is really simple. I just do whatever I'm told, especially when I go home, whatever my wife tells me to do. She tells me to do a lot, like a lot. But anyway, so my point is, so now Date's like, so we're sitting at lunch, he's like, now think about it this way. So I got all these people, right? Like every person name is in this circle. There's a circle of all these people. And all these people are in a circle, and I've been connecting all of them. Who's in the center? You are. If you give without the expectation of anything in return, what are these people going to do? They're going to get back, right? Like when you have an appointment with somebody and you set up an appointment with anyone, it doesn't matter what it is. Like I'll tell you, one of the first things I do when I coach mortgage and real estate, I'm like, you want to blow up your business really fast? Well, in real estate, number one is do an open house. I mean, that's by far the easiest, fastest, best possible way to blow up your business. Just provide an item of value and ask a lot of questions and find out if they qualify for a mortgage, right? Or in real estate and mortgage, the number one thing I make people do is call divorce attorneys, right? And it's the same concept. So divorce attorneys, why divorce attorneys? Anybody know why? It's a 3-4. Why else? Because if you're paying an attorney $500 an hour and they tell you to go work with this person, are you going to question them? So what's your competition? Is there a deadline on divorces? Right? So that's like we start with divorce attorneys, and it's really simple. Like if you don't want to do the Facebook and LinkedIn, then just, how many of you guys belong to a chamber of commerce? All right, then use LinkedIn. But if you belong to a chamber, or if you ever join a chamber, get the cheapest membership possible ever, and just get the directory, because you have this thing called the triangle of trust. So one of the first things I coach is divorce attorneys. So if I'm going to call a divorce attorney, right, I'll tell you a story about the very first divorce attorney I ever called. I was living in Castle Pines at the time. And I called up this guy, he's Darius Dugas. Like, I don't know, I just called him because it was kind of a funky name. And I'm like, gotta see what this dude's about, right? That's just literally how I think, by the way. So I'm like, hey, Darius, my name's Brian Pintar at NFM Lending. You're a member of the Castle Pines Chamber. I'm a member of the Castle Pines Chamber. I have a lot of clients getting divorced, and I need someone to refer them to. Are you taking on new clients? Pretty simple conversation, right? You are? I'm like, can I meet you for coffee for 15 minutes? I'm like, it'll never be more than 15 minutes. I just want to find out what your ideal client looks like and how I can refer them to you. I say it with more oomph than that. Walk in, I meet with Darius. I'm like, hey, Darius, it's Brian. Nice meeting you. I talk to people at the chamber. You're awesome. Heard nothing but great things about you. In full disclosure, I actually didn't look him up, and I actually didn't talk to me at the chamber, but I just wanted to honor him in some way and feel good. So I'm like, Darius, thanks so much for meeting me. You just, I said you're taking on new clients. I want to know what your ideal client looks like. And then you kind of peel back the layers of the onion. So Darius only works with males with children that are going through a divorce, and it comes from a family history. Because I go, why does that matter, right? And then I'm like, Darius, and this was just a random, you guys ever watch Columbo? With Peter, was that Peter Falk?
Yeah.
And you know how he always walks away? Like, so my dad and I watch Columbo forever. And you've ever watched Columbo?
No.
So Peter Falk, for you guys that watch it, he's this old investigator. He dresses bad and kind of looks like Dave Trader, the real estate agent. I mean, they dress exactly alike, like kind of sloppy all over. And I would say this is Dave was standing here, by the way. So he always walks away and he's like, he always turns around, he's like, one more thing. Like they think he's done asking me questions. I'm like, Darius, I got a question. Like when you're negotiating that, like if somebody's going to refinance somebody else off, they have to buy a house. How do you know they qualify? Like, well, they don't. This is literally how I started my divorce attorney around. I'm like, I'll do that for you. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, I'll talk to anyone. I'll make sure they qualify because that way we're negotiating a deal. And then I'm like walking away. I'm like, hold on, one more thing. I'm done. I promise after this question. I'm like when they have to refinance or sell the house, how do you know what it's worth? I have asked this question to well over 100 divorce attorneys. Do you know what 90% of them say? Zillow. And I'm like, Darius, that's like the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm like, I got some great real estate agents I'll refer you to that will give you a CMA. He's like, what? it's like, it's just going to tell you what the house is really worth. Don't worry about it. That way, when you're negotiating a divorce deal, like, you know what it's worth. But there's such a big aha moment. Like, these opportunities are massive. We just don't take advantage of it because we don't know what to call them. We don't know what to say. The underlying premise is, what can we do for them and how can we help them, right? Does that make sense? So going back, so the reason I tell you that is go back to Kristen. So I had lunch with Kristen. I challenged her on Tuesday and I haven't heard what's happened. The last text I saw from you, Ashley shared it with me, is like around 10 a.m. At that point, you had you're going to host an open house for $3.3 million.
Yeah.
You had a meeting with an HVAC guy.
Yep.
You had a double-ended potential listing buy on an investment property.
Yep.
And I think you had one other buyer. Is that right?
Yeah. And then after that, it came to about 8.5 million in potential business. And I have a listing appointment tonight.
And what'd you do?
Made 30 calls.
To who?
Just picked up my phone and started going through it.
Which letter do you start with?
A.
Really? It's brilliant.
Start at the top.
Hold on. So tell me again. So you called 30 people. How many people did you end up talking to?
All of them.
Oh, you ended up getting like,
Yeah. Well,
people
because they
called you.
either, if I left a message, they either called me back or they
Okay.
sent me a text saying, hey, I'm at work. What's up? And I'm like, I was just thinking about you. You've been on my mind. What's going on? And just catching up with people. And if and just seeing how I can help them.
How many people are in your phone? Did you ever actually end up looking? Like, what letter did you get through A's?
I think I got through A, B, and C.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
So you
Yeah.
probably have 100, if that holds true, then you probably have around 150, 160 contacts in your phone.
I don't know. What is it?
So
219.
219?
Yeah.
Perfect.
And a
But
bunch
so
of people I
now
don't
when those
know.
people ask and people need things, but now you're calling people that introduce some other people, so you don't need just 219. So then your number of calls keep growing, right? That you have to make.
Yeah.
What'd you do today?
I've called through half.
Okay.
It's been mostly voicemails today.
Okay.
And then we've had team meeting in this, so I'll finish up this afternoon.
Perfect.
So.
So tell me, like, at the end of the day, so Kristen, the first day she called 30 people a day because I told her that she wouldn't do it and she wasn't capable of it. She could never handle what I do because nobody can call 30 people a day because it's too hard and, like, there's zero chance, like, don't even try. Which obviously works with the reverse. That's where the psychology degree comes in. She obviously did it. So you talk to 30 people and then you have, like, you have a listing appointment, a couple of that, like, how many potential deals and real deals you have?
Let's see. Probably about 6 to 8 deals. And three of them are multi-million.
That's awesome. So if you literally did nothing but make 30 phone calls a day, even though you've done it for a day and a half, what do you think would happen in your business?
They'd blow up.
How many people would you have to hire?
I don't even know.
Does it matter?
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with adding however much I need to.
Because it's awesome to give people jobs, right?
Yeah.
Because you're better to work for than somebody like Patrick because you're nicer. Right?
I don't know about that.
No, but just being honest, I mean, like,
Yeah.
so it's, and the reason I bring that up is because, like, if you guys don't think this works, like, if you look at somebody like the Ashley example, I mean, I made her do it. Oh, by the way, I'll tell Kristen that she was here and say it. What's Ashley's January look like? We talked about it. Do you remember?
Yeah, it looks
sucks.
crappy. Yeah, and
Why?
because she took time off and didn't do all of her calls and everything, so it showed.
It happens quickly. As
Mhm.
quickly as you build it up, as quickly it goes away.
Well, and some of those people that I called yesterday, I haven't talked to them in a really long time. And if I hadn't called them, I don't know if I would have gotten that deal.
Probably not.
And so, and some of them are investors, so it's not just one.
I know. That's awesome.
So it's pretty eye-opening. I was telling Ashley, I blew up her phone yesterday, like
I know.
all day and all night.
But how much of it was excited, though?
It
Like,
was
you were
so
pretty
exciting.
fired up.
I was. And when I left yesterday, that's probably the first day in the 3 years that I've been in real estate that I've left work feeling like I actually accomplished something. I accomplished building business and not just working. I didn't just busy work. I actually did things that would build business.
Perfect. So you got to start doing your budget right away because you got to save your 20% so you can buy stupid shit.
I love
Or, like,
things.
build your house. Me too.
Yeah, I've got a granddaughter, so I spend a lot of money.
That's awesome.
She's so cool.
So, well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So we went through a lot. what questions you guys have? Yes.
Can you give us an
Pottery barn.
example? Can you give us an example of they're not home or they don't pick up? What's the voicemail sound like?
Oh, mine are always the same. It's like, hey, if let's just say I'm calling from Facebook again. Like, hey, Richie, this is Brian Pintar. We're friends on Facebook. I mean, we're not really friends, but we're friends on Facebook. And honestly, the reason I'm calling this is sound weird, but like, I think my purpose is to do for other people. And I want to see how I can help you and see who you need to help you blow up your business. And whatever you need, I'm here for you. Let me know. It's literally that simple and that to the point. Like, there's nothing special about it. But my intent is always to truly help other people. That's always my intent. So, yeah.
Do you follow up with text or no?
Do I?
Yeah.
Not on those calls. No, everything else I do text, but not on those calls. Not when it's a prospecting calls ever. And so you probably could. I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't hurt. That's just not. I mean, I don't like typing because I can't spell at all. I mean, it's really bad. So I'm serious. I don't like typing. I can't spell. Yes.
So do you have a routine of when you call the same person back again? Like how?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a thing. So we have very specific call days. So we have theme days every day. But one of the lists, and this is I'll tell you what David. So he has a thing called a VIP list. So when he's calling all these people and he finds an HVAC guy he likes, right? And he finds an attorney he likes or a couple of attorneys, and he finds people that he likes. So in real estate, we really only have two main lists. We have our previous client list, and then we have everybody else, friends, family, business people. So they go out a thing called a VIP list. So his list is 383 people. He makes sure every single person on that list is called at least once a month. So that list, you can get rid of people, and you can add people. It can be unlimited, but it's really only people you like that you enjoy talking to, because these are people you're going to call once a month, right? So eventually, when you have your HVAC guy or a couple of them, you're going to refer them out all the time. But again, now you build this big list of people. You're just making sure that are called once a month. Time-wise of the calls, I really think the number one thing is to do it early in the morning. And I do think a trick is if you never turn your computer on, or you put your phone on silent, or you don't service, you get really disciplined. I'm not allowed to do anything until I just call 30 people. And I also think it's really, really powerful to write the names down as you call them, because they're little wins, right? You have this sheet of 30 people, and there's one done. Next thing you know, it's 5. Next thing you know, it's 10. I'm a third of the way there. It's just these wins that you're creating for yourself. And I just think the premise of the call is the most important thing. We're so used to being do you know anybody looking to buy or sell, right? It's not the point of the call at all. The point of the call is if you know the person, how are you? I'm checking in. If you don't know them, it's how can I help you? Who do you have to need to help you grow your business, right? It's not about you at all at this point. You give, and law of attraction, law of reciprocity says, you'll get back. You just got to give. But it's a really simple call. And regardless, even if Chris didn't get any deals yesterday, but she talked to 15 people and was able to help 10 of them, you're going to leave the day feeling pretty fulfilled. And that's really all that matters. It's better than sitting in a command and working on flyers, right? It felt good to actually have human conversation.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah,
for sure. But that's a great question. That's a great question. What else, you guys? Any questions on the budget? Any questions about saving 20%? Any questions what you would do if you had an extra 10 grand to spend right now? Yes.
When you save the 20%, is there a vehicle you put it into, or?
Yeah, there's so a lot of things. So for example, college tuition would be savings, right? So are you guys doing a 501(c), I assume? Something like that. Not 501(c), a 528. 528, 529, whatever, 220, 221, whatever it takes. But anyways, yeah, I watched a lot of movies. I ate a lot of pea chips as a kid too. But it depends on the vehicle. So my personal number one vehicle is whole life. I'll maximize my 401k. That's it. I'll never put $1 more in it, because 401k is actually a tax code. If the government wants to take that money away, they can, and they will eventually, right? Whole life, I think, is the best return. It's the safest investment, and there's dual purposes with it, and you can always take that money out tax-free. And then I have a financial guy that does a lot of, side investing. And so, but yeah, it really depends on your situation. But I think whole life is by far the best shelter. It's It's expensive, but it's very, very, very worth it. And so, but that is a great question. So, yes.
We're independent contractors, so I do our own taxes and
Yes.
retirement stuff. How do you break it out? Like if you get a $10,000 commission check, talk to us about like how to safely do that.
Correct. So you have savings, and then you have savings for taxes. So, you know, like technically you're going to probably pay 40%, but then you're going to have a bunch of deductions. So that's a great question. So when I talk about adjusted gross income, and in real estate, it's different. So we have our gross commission income. This is how much we made. Then we have our adjusted gross income, which is our bottom line, page 1 of our 1040, right? But the truth lies somewhere in the middle because we took a lot of write-offs and stuff that we actually didn't spend the money on. So I want to know how much you made after all of your expenses, the money you're able to spend, not that adjusted gross income. So in understanding what that number is, so the first thing you would do is probably put aside, you know, people say 40, I think it's probably closer to 20 to 30%. Then save your 20, then pay your bills, and then, you know, whatever have you left over, right? The trick there is save it as much as you can so you're not making payments to the IRS. The other thing is, and to answer that question, if you closed 5 transactions in a month, right? Every month, and your average commission, let's say it's 400,000 and whatever your splits are, just for simple math, let's just say it's 2%, right? So you made 40,000 that month. Doesn't matter.
Does it matter?
Yeah, if you made 40,000 that month.
Sure, it matters.
Yeah, but is it easier to put 16 away and have 24 left?
Oh,
So the reason I say that is because what we really need to focus on instead of, so again, the savings number is only a savings number so we can spend more. It's not to save. The savings number is there to save because we have to have savings, but the velocity of money, the underlying premise behind it is that once we save that 20 and we're able to blow, so if I made 40 grand and I put 16 aside for taxes, I got 24 left, you know, and I saved 8, right? So now I'm at 24 and now I got whatever, 16,000 left and my bills are 6 and I got 10 grand left. Like that's where the fun is. Like that's where the joy is. That's why we want to do those 5 deals. We don't want to do 5 deals and make 40 grand. We want to do 5 deals so we got 10 to blow on whatever we want. Like, do you know how much shit you buy a Pottery Barn non-credit card base with 10 grand? Probably, I listen to it expensive. Like, you can, like, if you go into Pottery Barn at 10 grand, like, how happy would that be? Like, that's the whole premise I'm trying to get is about the spending of money is like where it is. Like, we get really wrapped up on like how much I save for taxes and how much I save, which yes, that's important. But I want you to look at the other way. I'm like, but if I make it 40 grand a month, I'll save 40% for taxes. I might only need 20, but who cares? I got 10 grand to spend on Pottery Barn every month. Like, you need to get a bigger house for your Pottery Barn stuff. That should be your goal, right? Like, fill up the garage with it. Like, that's joyful. You know, fill up his little Airstream with it. Buy him Pottery Barn shit. Like, if that makes you happy. But I'm just saying, we got to change the mindset around that. Instead of like, how much do I save and whatnot? No. It's how much do I get to spend? Like, our opportunities are limitless. I think the problem we have is like, I got 2 deals going, or I got like, Kristen's going to be like, I got 5 deals. I put $5 million under contract. I'm taking the year off, right? Barry Bruskin. It's my friend Barry Bruskin here. I've known forever. Dude's on his pace for a record year, right? Like, just crushing it. Like, I'm hammering him all last year. Like, Barry, I'm so disappointed in you. You can't possibly do what I do. Like, there's no way. Like, you don't got what it takes. So I'm hammering Barry, and in June, like, he's on record for like the greatest year of his life. Like, I don't think he closed the deal after June because he'd already broken his record. But like, Barry has to find a Pottery Barn obsession. Like, whatever his obsession is, something to spend the money on, because that's how we keep growing and making more and more and more, because then we're able to just blow stuff. Like, does that make sense? Like, I think that's the premise we want to get around, is the velocity of money, the ability to spend like insane amount of money on just stupid shit like helicopters, right? Like, when I buy my $1 million helicopter, I'm not financing it. I'm just paying it for it in cash. You know what I mean? For like a month's commissions in cash. Like, how stupid is that? But when you think about it, it's just changing. That's a great, I love that question, by the way, because it just helps me reiterate, like, we just don't stop. We just keep going. And we understand, like, the more we make, the more we're able to spend, the more people we're helping. We got to look at it such a more macro perspective. Like, how many people am I helping by buying a helicopter? Like, how many people does it take to make a helicopter? I mean, I guess it'd be a lot. But even then, like, think of how many bottles of Tito's are going to be in there. Like, that alone is feeding families for like years at a time, right? Like, just the guy that makes the corn to make the Tito's. I mean, that dude's set for life once he get my helicopter. Does that make sense? Like, that's the way I look at it. It sounds crazy, but it's such a more fun way to look at life. Like, I remember, it's funny with my wife, who's always been super conservative with the budget, right? Because that whole thing where we went back and my daughter was being beaten, and I'm like, I ain't never going backwards. Now it's to the point, it's like, what do you want to do this weekend? And I'm like, you can't tell her this. Don't play this until after this weekend. I'm like, I don't know. She's like, let's do something fun. I'm like, all right, well, I got a room at this, I got the presidential suite at the St. Julian in Boulder and got massages the whole weekend. Do you know what I mean? It's just stupid to be able to be like, because that's what I enjoy. Like, I like spending that money, but not be able to think about it. There's like a lot of joy in that. I mean, there just is joy in taking care of other people. So now when I look at doing mortgages and hitting certain numbers, it's really about like, how much more can I possibly spend on other people? Because that's where I find fun, right? At some point, do you really, like, is it fun doing 20 loans a month? Well, I'm not going to lie. Like, I don't really do much of it. So yeah, it's awesome. Like, I talk to the clients, I get them qualified, break down all their numbers, and I make it all work, and I make them smile and happy. Like, I take them to Disneyland, but I am not the one pushing the button for the ride, right? Like, I'm not selling them the popcorn. I'm giving them the money to buy a popcorn or like whatever they want. But does that make sense? Like, that is a really good question. I love that question, because you really just have this ability to make, like, it is so it's not so, it is limitless what we can make. We just have to change our mindset around what it is. Is anybody familiar with the immigrant effect? Anybody know what that is? Richie, you ever read the book?
Just basically they come here with nothing and they get success because they can have it. I mean, it's pretty simple is my understanding of it.
It is.
I mean, the immigrants, it's usually at least the second generation is when success kicks in, and they're kicking our ass.
So number one loan officer in the Corps is a guy named Oleg Tek. You know where he's from? Ukraine, actually. I mean, come from Ukraine to Seattle, different world. Are your opportunities limitless in Ukraine? Oh yeah, they're super freaking limited. Are they limitless in Seattle? Yes, they're limitless. So that's probably why it makes like $1.2 million a month, right? Number two loan officer in the Corps, Daniel Sa. Do you know where he's from? He's from Brazil. He grew up in a house with like 5 kids that was like a cardboard box. He's an American now. Got to make like $10 million this year, right? So there's this thing called the immigrant effect, and like, where if you look at the top 10 loan officers in the Corps, 7 were not born in the United States. Because now they have the ability to do anything they want. Like, it's limitless. So why not just kill it, right? I mean, Daniel Sa spends more money on wine. Like, Richie, you should see the wine this guy drinks. Like, when we go to Corps, it's a good time, so everyone brings in their wine. He spent, I guarantee you, and this sounds gluttonous, unless you look at the velocity of money, right? He spends more money on a wine in a week than probably everybody in this room makes in a year. But he finds extreme joy in it, right? And he looks at the velocity of money. One last thing I'll tell you about money. Everybody has a money story, right? There's a therapist. She's a hypnotherapist. Her name's called Marissa Peer. And there's a really good book that talks about, called The Code of the Extraordinary Mind by this guy named Basheen. And he had hypnotherapy by Marissa Peer. And he realized that everybody has a money story. At some point in our lives, we have something that blocked us from wanting to make a lot of money, right? And then once we break through that money story, that it's unlimited, you know, the amount of money we can make and what we can achieve and those type of things. But your money story really comes down to your definition of money. So for me, the definition of money for me is the direct reflection. Money is the direct reflection of the amount of value I provide for other people. So the amount of money I make is limitless because there's not enough value I could ever provide for enough people, right? That's my definition of money. That is my money story. The amount of money I make is a direct reflection of the amount of value I provide for others. So if I can keep providing for others, if I make $5 million this year, whatever it is, what does that mean? It doesn't mean I made $5 million. It might mean I buy 2 helicopters, but it doesn't mean I made $5 million. It means I helped a lot of people. Like I provided a ton of value for a lot of people, and that's all that matters. So you got to change your definition around money. You have to realize there's abundance in money, and you have to realize that, wealth is a negative word in a weird sort of way. Budget's definitely a negative word, but we got to change that around to like budget's an opportunity to spend stupid stuff. Like everybody in this room, the second I said you had $20,000 extra to spend right now and you had to spend it, everybody smiles. You're like, everybody can tell me what you'd spend on 20 grand right now, right? Everyone. Paying off bills doesn't count. Like you have to spend it on stupid stuff, like Debbie's bar tab, right? So, anyways, I wanted to share that with you guys, and then just see. Any other questions? Anyone?
I have a question. What are some ahas? We have a couple minutes left. What are some ahas? It's a little different direction than we've gone before. And thank you, because
you're welcome.
Absolutely awesome. What are some ahas that you have? And this is where we have live participation. Scott.
I really like the mindset of spending money, not having a guilt about it, but the velocity of it. You're helping other people who made that or earn money off you spending that money. It's a good shift in mindset.
It's pretty cool, especially if you travel to a third world company. Like Give Back Homes is one of my big charities, and I don't go, but a lot of my friends go, and they go and help build homes down there. To see like they're making goods that they're selling at world market here, right? I mean, that money goes a long way. It's pretty cool, and so I love that. That's huge. So, what about you, Richie? What's your aha?
It's just mindset. Continually work with your mindset.
What do you mean? Tell me more.
Just continually not having limited beliefs, being positive and staying in that frame of mind.
What percentage of people do you think have limiting beliefs?
Most.
What's that?
Most.
What do you think, Debbie?
100%. We all have it.
In all things? What about just around money and wealth?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't think a lot of us have limited beliefs in certain things. Like, I don't know, but I think money is definitely a one.
Yeah.
Christy, what's your aha? I always love your thoughts.
I mean, I don't really have an aha because I've been through a lot of this, but I like this. We haven't done this yet, or at least I haven't with you.
Yeah.
So thinking about like why you're really saving that 20%, so you can actually have more money to spend. It's not really, about just saving.
Yeah, you
about
completely get it. It's about spending.
Yeah, and I like to spend.
Just different. So you have a budget around spending as much money you can on the stupidest things you can. Right? Like you can go nuts at Pottery Barn. If you just close 60 deals a year, you could own Pottery Barn. Like the whole thing. All of it. And so really it matters. It's what brings you joy. Debbie, I'm gonna ask one question. If you had $5 grand right now and I told you you had to spend it right now, what would you spend it on?
Right now, I'd go book a vacation
Where?
immediately. Costa Rica.
Oh really? Why Costa Rica?
I haven't been there. And a friend of mine's always talking to me, saying, you need to come down here. You should have bought this little coffee shop right here. And so probably could even still buy it for around $5 grand.
So if you're sitting there hanging out, like if you picture yourself right there drinking coffee with your Baileys in it, I know you have some liquor in it because you're not going to drink coffee straight, but you're hanging out right now, feet at the beach, like how does that feel?
It's awesome. It's relaxing. It's guilt-free. It's fabulous.
Yeah, it's a feeling around it. It's awesome, right?
Yeah. So you sit there and you book some more.
You're going to go ride in my helicopter with me, right?
No, I'm gonna fly it.
Oh, you fly it?
Oh, God.
Perfect.
Before
I'm done.
Yeah.
That's good. No, it's not.
You missed a little bit earlier, so.
I can
We were talking about your
It
barbell.
wasn't
That's
me.
besides.
It was Brian. It wasn't me saying it.
I know. Well, thank you guys. Are there any other questions? Any ahas? Any other thoughts? Patrick, you have any questions? Any ahas? What's your aha?
I think my aha is the velocity of money. I mean, that resonated. I was like, that's absolutely, because we talk a lot about use of time, how to build the business to create a greater life, yet we don't take that deep dive and realize the velocity of money in buying that helicopter, buying that, I mean, Deb knows I want that Apache. So the reality is, though, is just like anything else, there's an absolute trickle effect all the way down to the steel. The nails that we're pounding into the board to put in the beams to start building the house, to get the foundation up, like all those pieces. There's the value of the dirt, like it all goes all the way down. It's a lot of money.
It is.
So that was my aha.
That's awesome. The other thing I'll say is more important, not how much you make, but how much you make per hour. I think that's a big number to track.
This was my other aha. We talked about it at team meeting and we dove into it again.
Carol's in the back making calls. I just walked by. I said, "What call number are you on?" And she's like, she's got number 14 written down, and she stopped because she's finding somebody a property that needed something immediately.
But even then, she's making another call to find that property. So that's call number 15 or 16 and 17.
She's going like crazy.
It's 30 calls a day, and it doesn't matter who. I was, when we were talking about just who to call and all this, I'm not from here, right? So I'm from Alaska. My phone, when I look at the very bottom of this, and this is a coaching exercise that we actually do, is go down to the bottom of the cell phone to just talk about the amount of contacts that are in here. It doesn't matter how well you know them. 1,242.
I had no idea you could do
What
that.
would that look like?
Yeah.
All on that.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me.
Yep. Let's give Brian a huge round of applause.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. I have one request. There's empty seats that are in the room. Please talk to our fellow agents, talk to your friends who are agents, and invite them to the next wealth building.